Okay, welcome in. Good to have you. Hey, good to have you tuned in. I'm Scott with the Teal Shirt Report podcast. And what's a good subject for this podcast? What happened this time? I must say, I heard one of the news anchors say this Monday morning. What happened this time? And it's a good question. Jaguars go down to defeat again, 28-23. Against the Eagles in Philadelphia. The city of brotherly love was not kind to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So when you kind of wind it up, or kind of, have you ever seen anybody do this when they speak? When you get it down to a nutshell, or down to brass taxes, if you will, what happened this time? Well, I watched the game. I saw most of it. Jaguars fell behind early, 22 to nothing. 22 to nothing. And you're thinking, man, the Eagles might score 40 points today. But they did not. Jaguars came back, made it a game, and had a chance actually to win at the end. They get the ball down. I think they got it as deep as what, inside the 30-yard line of the Eagles territory, trailing by 5 points. All they got to do is score a touchdown. They're going to win this game. Um, I'm watching the game. By the way, I will say something nice about Trayvon Walker. He showed heads up, picked up a fumble, ran it in for a touchdown. I think one of the announcers still tried to take it away from us, saying the running back should have been down because somebody had grazed his sock or something. The national media kills me. I watched the video. I didn't see it. I saw what he was talking about. Now, even if a guy doesn't touch you, him being near you may dramatically slow down running backs' momentum. Maybe that's the word I'm looking for. So when we break down the ball game, take a look at all the stats you want. But when we break down this football game, the problem in the first half was this: the Philadelphia Eagles 10 first downs, the Jacksonville Jaguars 1 first down. That's how you fall behind in a game, 22 to nothing. You come back. I know Trevor ran a touchdown in. I think he ran a second one in, I believe. I have to take a look at the stats. Um, I don't think Trevor at times played that bad, except the first half was terrible. The first half was terrible. 1 first down in the first half. Second half, and I saw Trevor kind of starting to put it together late in the first half. He just ran out of time in the first half. Second half was a better half for the Jaguars offensively. The first half offensively was non-existent for our Jacksonville Jaguars. They lose the game. What happened this time? It seems like the Jags are always losing games by kind of the same way. What happened this time? Well, and that I love that question. When you lose, and probably the team might not have even watched the game, but when you lose, the question is what happened this time because you've lost so many. The Jacksonville Jaguars have fallen to 2-7. Obviously, the story in the first half was 10 Eagles first downs, one Jacksonville Jaguar first down in the first half. Jags played better in the second half. I should have played the Jaguars defense over the Saints defense. The Jags defense actually scored more points than the Saints defense in fantasy football because of the scoop up, the fumble, and the run in for a touchdown by Trayvon Walker. And I'm not going to say he's the defensive player of the game. I'm not going to say that, man. He was heads up this one time. Trayvon, to me, is a guy that'll make something happen now and then. Not a dominating player, but he will make something happen now and then. He'd be a nice player, nice good player if he had been a second round or third round pick. But he was not. He was numero uno overall, and for that, him being picked number 1 overall is general manager Baalke's responsibility. He made the pick. Urban wasn't around this year when the pick was made, or actually 3 years ago when Trayvon was picked. That was actually Baalke's first draft without Urban Meyer being around. Urban Meyer, I think, had a lot to do with the draft in 2021. It was all Baalke in 2022. I hear 2 long-time Jacksonville Jaguars football players. I hear them both 20 minutes before the pick is made. "Oh, we think it's gonna be an offensive lineman." And this was an offensive guy and a defensive guy that both said they thought the Jaguars were gonna pick an offensive lineman with that first overall pick in 2020. No, it's not Trayvon Walker's pick. They give him credit for selling himself at the combine to general manager Trent Baalke. He's a nice player. He's a good player. He is a developing player. He picked up a fumble, heads up. He kinda got the Jags back in the game in the second half. So Trayvon, congratulations. Good play, good heads up play. You kept running, got it in the end zone. That's 6 points no matter how you slice it. And no matter how you slice it, the Eagles 10 first downs in the first half. The Jacksonville Jaguars won. Can you see my one finger right there? Won. It was a ball game at the end. Now, I'm gonna aside from Trevor Lawrence throwing an interception on the last offensive play of the game by the Jaguars, because the Eagles just came in and ran the clock out after that, after the interception. And the Jags had the ball deep in Eagles territory, inside the 30, I believe. I think the play calling is abysmal at times. There were some decent play calls. Parker Washington's out there, and he's playing good some of the time. Some of the time, maybe he's not. He's getting playing time. He's developing. He's only a second-year player, but he's capable of making some good catches because we've seen it. Jaguars even had Trammell in there, wide receiver off the practice squad. The Jaguars have now had numerous and multiple injuries across the offensive line. Plus, they traded Cam Robinson. They traded Roy Robertson Harris. It's in a small way, it's a fire sale. I heard a rumor the other day. I don't know how true it is. I read something or heard something the other day that Christian Kirk was getting ready to be traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then he got hurt, so they couldn't trade him. That was a rumor going around. So, and I think Christian Kirk's seen his last game with the Jaguars because he's probably going to miss the entire year. On the other hand, the Florida Gator quarterback, Lagway, he's got a hamstring injury, but the rumor is he may be back, though, before the end of the season, and that would be great news for Florida. Florida lost to Georgia, as you know, 34-20 in the world's largest cocktail party. It got rowdy. There were some JSO officers that were wailing away on somebody's head with their fist. There were some haymakers thrown, and you've probably seen the videos on local TV here in Jacksonville. Going back to the Jaguars game for a moment, want to thank our sponsors, also Saucer Realty and Capital, the madmexmix.weebly.com, and the Lake Eufaula hits. It's on our scroll right there on the ticker. Going back to the Jaguars, I have a lot of opinion about this. The Jaguars get the ball. The Jaguars were fortunate to move the ball down the field because there was a pass interference called, and it needed to be called. I said, we finally got a call. And that's how the Jags got a first down. Otherwise, I think it would have ended up being fourth down. So they get the call, pass interference. They're coming down the field. They're inside. They may be deeper than I'm saying, but they were inside the 30-yard line. They had a chance to score and win the game. There's a minute and a half to go. And I think the play calling at that point was just terrible. I don't know if Trevor was checking off the plays, but there should have been a run. Even though the Jaguars were out of timeout, there should have been a run in there, a draw play, a sweep, or something. I mean, there was still a minute and a half to go. You can rush up to the line, and if you get a first down, you can spike the ball or whatever. There should have been a run mixed in there because Philadelphia is playing back for the pass. There should have been some kind of run to catch them by surprise. The play calling was not creative. And I'll say it. Jacksonville Jaguars lose the game 2023. Blind press Taylor, the pitch, maybe both. One of them, both of them. General Manager Trent Baalke put this whole ball of wax together. Players getting hurt left and right. Lanahan came in and played tackle. Um, Anton Harrison got hurt. The right tackle got hurt somewhere in the second half, third quarter, I believe. We'll take a look at some of the scores. Jaguars were beaten by the Eagles in Philadelphia. Philadelphia Eagles 28, Jacksonville Jaguars 23. Um, Looks like the Raiders fire offensive coordinator Luke Getsy amid a 2-7 start. Well, maybe somebody with the Jaguars should get fired too, because the Jaguars are off to a 2-7 start. And you're saying start at 2-7. 2-7 is over halfway through the season. It really is. We'll take a look at some NFL scores. There's a Monday night game, Kansas City and Tampa Bay. Go Chiefs. Say that, should I? I know Tampa Bay. I was a Tampa Bay fan for a brief time. Spurrier played quarterback for 'em. They went 0-26. That was long before the Jaguars came around. Last Thursday night, the Jets outplayed the Houston Texans in New York. New York Jets 21, Houston Texans 13. The Atlanta Falcons beat the Cowboys 27-21. The running back Dowdle getting some playing time for Dallas. He got me some fantasy points. Dallas is, they think they've got a quarterback that's kind of banged up, not playing well all the time. I saw the backup warming up on the sidelines during the game, but Atlanta won this one. The Atlanta Falcons 27, Dallas Cowboys 21, Baltimore Ravens 41, Denver 10. That one surprised me a little bit. Doesn't surprise me that Baltimore won, but they really blew them out. And Denver hasn't been on the real short end of a blowout in a while. They've been playing good football recently, but Baltimore's a good team. And when they're firing on all cylinders, they could probably blow anybody out in the league almost. Baltimore 41, Denver 10. Our executive producer, JC's Buffalo Bills, won with a last-minute field goal. Beat Miami, but JC, they didn't cover the spread. But on the bright side, the Buffalo Bills were my survivor picks. I've still won like 6 in a row in the survivor picks in our football pool. So, all right, Buffalo, great field goal. Buffalo Bills 30, Miami Dolphins 27. New Orleans Saints got beat by the worst team in the league, Carolina 23, New Orleans 22. Vegas did not do well. They got blown out by Cincinnati. Cincinnati 41, Las Vegas 24. The guy who I wanted to be the Jacksonville Jaguars coach before the Jags hired Urban Meyer was Jim Harbaugh. I think Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers have already won 5 games. I think I'll check their record in a minute, but the LA Chargers 27, Cleveland Browns 10. Jaguars could not beat Cleveland, but Cleveland was playing better ball back then when they played the Jaguars. Washington Commanders, Redskins football team, Washington 27, New York Giants 22, a final. Tennessee Titans get off the mat and beat New England. Tennessee 20, New England 17. New England is a bad football team. Arizona Cardinals really showing that they're much improved this year over last year. Arizona Cardinals 29, Chicago Bears 9. And the one we're scratching our heads about, Jacksonville Jaguars lose to Philadelphia. Philadelphia 28, Jacksonville Jaguars 23. The Detroit Lions, where I think I called the guy Ben Jones, offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, I believe, doing a good job. Mark Brunell is the quarterback coach up there in Detroit. Detroit did beat Green Bay. I know I picked Detroit in the pool. I picked them to cover the 3.5 points, and lo and behold, they won by 10. Detroit Lions 20. Green Bay Packers 14. Again, Detroit Lions 24. Green Bay Packers 14. I thought Seattle would beat the Rams, but they did not. LA Rams 26. Seattle Seahawks 20. Shad Khan, if you want a really good general manager, I don't know what the contracts will allow you to do as far as contact, but the LA Rams GM, Les Snead, would be on my immediate radar. If you're able to talk to him or through legalities, I mean, who would want to leave LA, which is what this maybe second top market in the country? There's 2 NFL teams there. The coach, it should have been in Jacksonville, in my opinion. The guy I wanted, Jim Harbaugh's won 5 games with the Chargers already now that he's back in the NFL. LA Rams and Les Snead, I really thought they'd lose that game, but they won 26-20. And Sean Conn, if you want to hire a GM and you want to win, if you really want to win, you got to somehow get the word to Les Snead. Money is no object. And then let Les Snead hire the coach if you can somehow pry him away from the Rams. That is my opinion. Les Snead is an SEC guy. He's originally from Southeast Alabama. He grew up in the same town our executive producer did, JC. And I lived in that area for a while as well. LA Rams 26, Seattle Seahawks 20. Minnesota Vikings, I got Justin Jefferson on my fantasy team. He scored a few points. Minnesota beat the hapless Colts. Anthony Richardson, man, I heard some things about him that he tapped out. My gosh. He didn't stay in Florida long enough. I will tell you this about Anthony Richardson. I remember when Florida lost to Vanderbilt, his last year at Florida. Anthony Richardson could have won that game for Florida by just running the ball 2, 3, 4 times. He was protecting himself for the NFL. I said it. And now that he's tapped out, now that he's in the NFL and he's tapped out, it's all making sense to me now. He probably threw more passes against Vanderbilt in that loss than he did in any other game. Got more yardage, actually had some good passing numbers, but they lost the game against Vanderbilt. Now, what about Vanderbilt? Now, Vanderbilt was not as good a couple of years back, about 3 years back when Anthony Richardson was there, because now he's been in the NFL for about 2 years. I'm watching this video, the viral videos of officers involved in fights. And, man, there were some haymakers thrown in that one. My goodness. It was a couple of different JSO officers throwing haymakers. There's a bald-headed guy. They got him pinned up against the seats. Man, that guy's throwing some roundhouses. And JSO is going to research it, investigate it, and I'm sure they will come out with a statement, because everybody's asked me about what happened at the Georgia-Georgia game. There's witnesses being talking about it. Some witnesses said JSO used excessive force, and that was at a ball game at the world's largest cocktail party where we know there were refreshments. I think what I'm hearing now is that it had something to do, and JC, you'll know about this. You'll remember this. It had to do with the tickets, the electronic tickets. Did the guy really have tickets to get in the stadium? And but it's all going to come out. Donna Deegan's even saying she's aware of the situation and the videos, of course. But people are asking me about it, so we're discussing it here on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Speaking of the game, the Florida Gators lost. They did. They lost to Georgia, but the game was tied like early in the fourth quarter, 20-20. Georgia was without a doubt the better team. However, the problem with the Florida Gators is their quarterback, DJ Lagway, got hurt his hamstring late in the second quarter. If he plays the rest of the game, might have been a different outcome. The third string quarterback, for a guy from Yale, came in and played quarterback the rest of the way for Florida. Florida's had injuries too. We're not trying to make excuses, but these are the facts. Graham Mertz went out here about 3 weeks ago. He's done for the year. Lagway went out in the second quarter of the Florida-Georgia game. Can you imagine that? So I think we hit most of the scores. Was there one more? I mentioned the Minnesota score. Minnesota won. And that's how we got talking about Anthony Richardson, right? AR-14, AR-15, I believe it was. He wore 15 at Florida, same number as Tebow. But he tapped out a couple of weeks back. Our executive producer was telling me about it. I'm hearing it from other people. He tapped out. Again, the LA Chargers under coach Jim Harbaugh beat Cleveland 27-10. That was on the road in Cleveland, I believe, too. Washington Redskins 27, the New York Giants 22. I mean, the Washington Commanders 27, the New York Giants 22. Tennessee 20, New England 17, Arizona 29, the Bears 9, Arizona Cardinals 29, Chicago Bears 9, Philadelphia Eagles 28, Jacksonville Jaguars 23, Detroit beat Green Bay 24-14. LA Rams beat Seattle, LA Rams 26, Seattle Seahawks 20. Minnesota Vikings 21, Indianapolis Colts 13. I don't think Anthony even played in that game. I think he's going to be the backup for a couple of weeks, and maybe he comes back in. Maybe he'll tap back in, not tap out, but tap back in. Who knows? Minnesota Vikings 21, the hapless Indianapolis Colts 13. The Jaguars own a victory over the Colts. It was a close one, but they own a victory over the Colts. And that was it for the Sunday score. Should we go into college football? Maybe we should. Again, we're sponsored by Saucer Realty and Capital, Lake Eufaula Hits, the MadMaxMix.weebly.com. Max is a great show on Wednesday nights. Our executive producer, JC, has a great show on Thursday nights live from the pub on Lake Eufaula Hits.com. Both those shows start at 6 o'clock Central, 7 o'clock Eastern. We'll go into some college football stuff. Do we have to take a look at the Jag stats? I may just hold that off until the next podcast, actually looking at the stats, because I think I told you pretty much what went on. Play calling, Trevor Lawrence, an interception in the last minute and a half of the game. Let's take a look at college football scores. By the way, I'm not going to do high school football on this podcast right now, but all you have to do, go to bigjreport.com, scroll down, and you'll find some high school football scores from last Friday night, last Thursday night. There's been a lot of games going on. Eufaula got beat by Early County, Max and JC. I double-checked it with Doug Applin, one of our correspondents, and I think Eufaula got beat by the Early County Bobcats in Georgia. They got beat 20-0. So Eufaula, Alabama went down. Doug told me that Eufaula, they're just not that good this year. They're not as good as, they have been in the past. We'll take a look at the college football scoreboard. We got a lot of catching up to do on the website. Icemen already starting to play hockey, and we're going to start getting on that and covering that because the Jacksonville Icemen got a great franchise in the East Coast Hockey League. So catch a game soon at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena right here in Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Icemen are back. College football, and this is from our website, College Football on the Big J Report. In the sports section, scroll down, college football, the SEC, Georgia 34, Florida 20, the final. Give the Gators credit. They played hard all the way to the end. The quarterback injury to Lagway hurt a bunch. Coach Napier had them prepared for this one. He really did. I think Coach Napier's done a good job the last 4 games preparing the team. Not so much against Texas A&M or Miami. They lost both of those. But they got beat by Tennessee in overtime. But Napier prepared well for the Central Florida win, the Kentucky win, the Tennessee loss in overtime, and even this one against Georgia. Georgia and Florida were tied 20-20, I believe, early in the fourth quarter. But again, Georgia pulled away at the end. The Georgia Bulldogs 34, the Florida Gators 20, the final. Some other scores. How about Vanderbilt? Vanderbilt 17, Auburn 7. Vanderbilt is now bowl eligible. They're 6-3. Auburn is 3-6. Vanderbilt has beaten both Alabama and Auburn. They've also beaten Kentucky. They beat Ball State. They won a couple other games. Vanderbilt 17, Auburn 7. Vanderbilt lost to Missouri in overtime. What if they had won that one? Wow. And I believe Vanderbilt lost to Texas by 3 points, I believe. Vanderbilt, the coach up there, Clark Lee, he's got something special going on at least this year. Vanderbilt 17, Auburn 7, the final. Vanderbilt now has 6 wins, and again, they own wins over both Alabama and Auburn now. I went to sleep Saturday night at about the halftime mark, about at halftime between South Carolina and Texas A&M. I thought Texas A&M was going to come back and crush them. Looked like they had more athleticism, especially in that second quarter. But when I woke up Sunday morning, South Carolina had won the game. South Carolina 44, Texas A&M 20 a final. Looked like Texas A&M was going to come back and win this game. From the time I went to sleep, it apparently was all South Carolina in the second half. Gamecock fans are going to want me to take an early siesta and a nap in all of their second halves now. Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss put 63 points on the board against Coach Sam Pittman in Arkansas. Sam, they were talking about running him out of Arkansas 3 years ago. He's still the head coach for now. I think this may be the year that they run him out. He's been tough. He's hung in there longer than anybody thought he would, and I still think he's a pretty good coach. But on this day, Ole Miss scored 63 points. Ole Miss 63, Arkansas 31 a final. Alabama, I believe, was off. Alabama's got a huge one with LSU in a very critical SEC game coming up this Saturday, November the 9th of 2024. Alabama 6-2 will play LSU 6-2. Other games from, back on Saturday, November the 2nd. Let's backtrack here again. South Carolina 44, Texas A&M 20. Ole Miss 63, Arkansas 31 a final. Kentucky battled Tennessee. Tennessee, again, not the most offense. They start slow. They started slow in this one. Their offense has been very anemic, especially in the first half of games. Maybe Heupel's making some good adjustments in the second half, but Tennessee won this game. Tennessee 28, Kentucky 18 the final. Last I checked, Tennessee still in the top 10. In the ACC, North Carolina 35, FSU 11. The Seminoles, the FSU Florida State Seminoles fall to 1-8. Man, how the mighty have fallen after last year. SMU 48. They're in the ACC. SMU 48, Pitt Panthers 25 a final. SMU and Pitt both with only one loss now. SMU is 8-1, a newcomer to the ACC. And Pittsburgh, a recent newcomer. They've been in the league a few years now. Pittsburgh, the Pitt Panthers, now 7-1. Here's one from the Big Ten. Number 1 ranked Oregon won on Saturday. November the 2nd. This is in the Big Ten. Number 1 ranked Oregon 38, Michigan 17 a final. And again, those particular games that we just gave you were played on Saturday, November the 2nd of 2024. You can also check those scores on our website as well. We're about 28 minutes in. Special thanks to our sponsors, Saucer Realty and Capital, for your real estate needs in North Florida and surrounding areas. You will find a link for Saucer Realty and Capital on our homepage near our weather reports. Warming back up in Jacksonville, clear to partly cloudy. There's a slight chance of rain. Now, we got some rain on Sunday night. It was like a 30% chance of rain on Sunday. We got a little rain Sunday night and throughout Sunday off and on. But the 30% chance of rain on Sunday is now down to 20% on Monday. High temperatures in and around Jacksonville. Let me just grab the forecast real quick. We know a lot of you guys are watching this or listening to this on Monday. We're also on Twitter. Scott Mullis at Big J Report Scott. Follow us on Twitter. NFL football Sunday night, Minnesota Vikings 21, Indianapolis Colts 13, a final on Sunday night, November the 4th of 2024. That comes to us from Big J Report. Again, NFL football, Philadelphia Eagles 28, Jacksonville Jaguars 23, a final. Jags did claw back some in this one, but lost at the end. That score, of course, disappoints us. The Jaguars are now 2-7. Update, I'm looking at the thermometer, 71 degrees in the 7 o'clock hour, so it's really warm in Jacksonville. Currently clear to partly cloudy and a warm 71 degrees this morning in Jacksonville, Florida at about 5:45 a.m. on Monday morning, November the 4th of 2024. Forecast in Jacksonville and North Florida, clear to partly cloudy, warm and breezy at times. High temperatures here in November, on November the 4th of 2024. High temperature near 82. Lows tonight, a warm 67. Rain chance 20% here in North Florida. Winds breezy at times. Winds east at as much as 6 to as much as 20 miles per hour. That info comes to us from Big J Report. We do have concerts listed for North Florida and surrounding areas in our Neighbors 2 section. You'll find links to the madmaxmix.weebly.com, the internet radio Wednesday night request show with Mad Max. Man, I don't miss Mad Max. Every Wednesday night we're listening to Mad Max and the madmaxmix.weebly.com. JC has a great show on Thursday nights live from the pub. On Thursday nights with JC gets underway at 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Mad Max and JC shows are similar times, but madmax.weebly.com. Mad Max is on Wednesday nights, live from the pub on Thursday nights at Lakeview Fall of Hits, lakeviewfallofhits.com. Great internet radio on Thursday nights with JC's show. It's still a 24/7 internet radio format. It's an internet radio, great music outlet, 24/7 with a lot of variety. LakeviewFallOfHits.com, great internet radio. And make sure you check out the Mad Max Mix, madmaxmix.weebly.com. And special thanks to Saucerility and Capital. You'll find links for Saucerility and Capital on our homepage near the weather reports. And Mad Max's show, the madmaxmix.weebly.com. Easy to click on links in the Neighbors 2 section. Also for the LakeviewFallOfHits.com. Great internet radio where it's all good. And we've got our sponsors on our ticker during this particular podcast. And again, we appreciate you tuning in. We're going to make this episode show number 60. 60. We got to get up into the 80s. We got to get up to at least Jimmy Smith 82 or Mercedes Lewis 89 in future podcasts before the end of the year. A lot of podcasts coming at you. We're going to be doing interviews. I know we've talked about that ad nauseum, but we are going to be, as we get more comfortable with YouTube, and we were, recently very new to YouTube. And again, we appreciate you subscribing to our channel. I think, again, I want to repeat, I'm very thankful for you that subscribe to our channel. So you'll be alerted when we go live, particularly on the weekends. This is a Monday morning podcast with the NFL scores, some college football scores, some commentary. We'll probably break down the stats on the next podcast. Trevor Lawrence had a bad first half, had a much better second half. Again, the key to the game, the Eagles got off to a great start. The Eagles, 10 first downs in the first half. The Jaguars, a paltry 1 in the first half. The Jags offense got cranked up a little bit. I say cranked up, but kind of got off the sputtering mode in the second half. Play calling the last minute and a half, man, I don't know. I don't know how much Trevor checks off on the plays. I think they should have mixed in a run because they still had a minute and a half left on the clock. What if you break one for 10 or 15 yards on a run when the Eagles aren't expecting it? That's called creative play calling. And I think that was a key in this particular game. I really do. You had a minute and a half left. You're inside the 30. The Eagles are expecting a pass on every single play. The Jaguars did have no timeouts, and I understand that, but they could have tried at least one run. One run, a draw play. Can you imagine a draw play, a bootleg, a naked reverse, maybe not an end around, that would take too much time, or I'd say probably a sweep with the running back or a draw play up the middle when they're expecting the pass. Press Taylor and Doug Peterson, man, we need some more creative play calling. At 2-7, there's going to be a head on a platter before the end of the year, or maybe at the end of the year. Maybe Shad Khan's going to give them the whole year to see what they can do in 2024, what the final record amounts to. Because, ladies and gentlemen, the season is shot. The season is shot. I'm going to tell you right now. I'm frustrated. The Jags fans are frustrated. And general manager Trent Baalke needs to be. You ever heard a guy say, "You're fired"? Trent Baalke needs to be fired. Unless there's things he knows that's going on the yacht that, and there's people worried about that. That's just something I'm saying, having a little fun. But Trent Baalke needs to be fired, because on the next episode, I'm probably going to talk to you about how Trent Baalke actually got the general manager's job. And Shad Khan, I think he's a good employer because he doesn't like to fire people too quickly. He will fire them. He'll give them their time, their 2-3 years or more or less. But he's a good employer because he gives everybody a fair shake and lets them stay until the bitter end. There's going to be somebody fired, maybe a couple of different people fired at the end of the season. You bring in a new GM, Shad Khan, remember that name, Los Angeles Rams GM. Remember that guy, Les Snead. Les Snead, the GM of the Rams. Shad Khan, you go to a guy like that, or you go to any of the top 10 GMs in the league and you say, money is no object. I'm letting you control the whole thing. Hire the coach, whoever you want to hire, get it done. We want a championship here in Jacksonville. That's if Shad Khan is serious about winning, which I feel like he is. Not everybody does. A lot of people think, man, he's not serious about winning. Shad, if you're serious about winning, go get you a GM. Let him. You don't need Shad. You don't need to fire any more coaches. You don't need to hire any more coaches. You need to hire a good, experienced NFL GM, hopefully a guy that's actually doing well at a current franchise, and you offer him a money is no object deal. 10-year contract if you have to. You can always get rid of them, right? With a buyout or whatever the case may be. But that's what the Jags need. They need to bring in a GM who has won. Last time I checked, Les Snead has won a Super Bowl with the Los Angeles Rams. A game I thought he was going to lose, his team was going to lose against Seattle. They won. So I think currently he's a pretty darn good GM. He's drafted a lot of good wide receivers. He's drafted some good defensive linemen. Les Snead would be my number one choice. And I think you hire Les Snead, man, he'll go get a coach. He might go get that coach that's the offensive coordinator at Detroit. That's on my wish list. Les Snead and probably that offensive coordinator at Detroit, or whoever Les Snead wants to hire as the head coach. And I'm just throwing a rumor out there. I'm just giving Shad Khan some advice on things he can do. I'm not saying Les Snead's going to take the job, but man, why not shoot for the moon? You're the Jacksonville Jaguars, for God's sakes, and you got a 2-7 record. The Teal Shirt Report podcast. I'm your host, Scott. We've been brought to you by Salsa Realty and Capital, Lakeview All the Hits, the MadMaxMix.weebly.com. Special thanks to our executive producer, JC, our producer, Alex Nunnery. Alex tells me the Bold City Rattlers, new to the ABA, the newest Jacksonville minor league basketball team, semi-pro basketball team. The 95ers are still in town, I understand, but you do have the Bold City Rattlers. They're actually playing at a private school's gym on the west side, I understand. And I got a report from Alex that the Bold City Rattlers are off to a 3-0 start. Alex, thank you for helping us produce the podcast. Thanks to our executive producer, JC, and John Gaylor, our contributor and correspondent. Man, John, thank you for all the help, the conversation. Man, we've gone through this 2-7 thing together. And John and I were talking about in messaging that, and I kind of felt like when the Jags were 2-6, I said, man, they should be at least 4-4. So Gaylor and I were talking. Gaylor said something about they should be at least 4-5. And I said, yeah, they should be 5-4 or 4-5 at least by now, but they're not. What happened this time? You get one first down offensively in the first half. The opponent, the Eagles, get 10 first downs. And you're way in the hole to begin with. It's about, let me sum it up this way. It's about playing a complete football game. The Jaguars are having difficulty playing a complete football game on offense and defense right now. That's going to do it for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Show number 60 is in the books. You guys have a great day. Thank you for watching. My name is Scott. I'm your host for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Have a great day.